In this video, I want to show you how to build dynamic timelines in your project finance models. Okay, so let's have a look at the timeline in this Excel file that I prepared for you. So timeline, by timeline, I mean this time ruler, which is on top of each worksheet, calculation sheet in the model, and is going to tell you basically how you're walking through time when you are looking at your projections, okay? So in this example here, the timeline, as you can see, it's annual throughout. However, I have the flexibility to turn this model from monthly, as you can see here, now we have two phase, construction monthly and operation as well on monthly basis. And we have the flexibility to switch to quarterly, semi-annually, and as we said, annually, okay? So this is what I call dynamic single timeline. What you need to be careful is that since this is dynamic, and this cell, which is the number of months or the frequency of your projections or the number of months in each model period, since this is an input and you are giving the possibility to the user to change this parameter in the model, you need to make sure that whenever you are doing any calculation related to revenue, OPEX, operational, financial, tax, you take that into consideration to convert, the values in the live basically frequency in the model, so that the model can adjust automatically based on what this parameter is in your model. Another way of building the timeline, so this one was a single, as you can see here, the single timeline. The other one is what I call a hybrid timeline. What do I mean by hybrid? Hybrid is just the same exact structure. However, you might want to give the flexibility to the user to have a different frequency for the construction phase and a different one during operation. For example, what is most common is that you want your construction to be on monthly basis, because it's the phase where you want to monitor things, on monthly basis. It's a phase where you will receive actuals, so you want to monitor the actual versus projections and come up with your cost overrun and how much you're gonna basically draw down on the contingency. So making the construction on monthly basis makes sense. However, when it comes to your operation or debt repayment, you want the model to reflect basically the frequency of debt repayment. So you might, find this structure more convenient for you, and you can have the flexibility to, for example, have your construction on quarterly basis, operation on semi-annual basis, and so on. Okay, so with all these flexibilities of switching in between these two. So that's what I call a hybrid, but you still have only one timeline, right? On top of each worksheet, and the timeline is exactly the same for each calculation sheets in your model. So that's another way of building your timeline. The other one that I used to do, and I still see in some models, is to have a dual timeline. So as you can see here, this looks like the single dynamic timeline, but it's done twice in the model. So you will first have what you call construction timeline, where you build the complete timeline with a complete set of flags and counters for construction phase only. So all the cash flows during construction, like drawdown schedules, the sources and uses of funds table, CapEx payment curves, and the CapEx, schedules, all of them are projected on monthly basis. But then when you go to operation, you start from scratch again. You build a new timeline on semi-annual, on annual, on quarterly basis. And you're going to basically, have your operational cash flows, your debt repayment, and all of them done in a new timeline And so that's another way of building the timeline, having this dual timeline. This is, as I said, common. However, it is actually your calculating your flags and counters twice, once for construction, once for operation, and also, combining and integrating, the construction into operation can be somehow tricky and confusing. So that's, as I said, it's doable to do it this way, but this is not my recommended way of doing things anymore. The other one, which I recently switched to this one, is to have this convention from the beginning. As you can see here in this sheet, I do not have this parameter that I had in this previous ones called the frequency of projections, which I had in all these sheets. I don't have it here, so I do not give the opportunity to the user to change the frequency of the model. It is monthly. So this is giving me a lot of flexibility in building the model. And with a monthly model, you can always convert it to semi-annual, quarterly, annually, and so forth. And doing it the other way around is difficult. If you have a semi-annual cash flow, it's difficult to convert it to monthly. But if you have monthly cash flow, it's very easy to consolidate, all the cash flows into any other frequency possible. Okay, so these are my recommendation for building timelines in the model. Things can become a little bit more complicated if you, instead of two phases, construction, operation, you add also a development stage. Then you need to calculate more flags and counters. As you can see, the number of flags, increased with this, three-phase construct development. It's in orange, blue is construction, and then we switch to green, which is operation. So this is another, if you want to or need to model the development phase, which most of the time is needed to calculate the all-in return for the developers and for the construction equity providers, or to evaluate the development fee. You might want to project, the development cost, the actuals and the projected ones, and see and evaluate and analyze what is the right remuneration for the development, or at least what is accepted for lenders to be included in the sources and uses of funds. So that's it. The Excel behind it is quite straightforward, with a very easy technique of introducing the number of months in each model period. You can simply build this timeline and build the flags and counters very easily with a couple of lines of code or Excel. So not to complicate things. My advice is not to complicate when it comes to timeline. Remember that the keyword is flexibility. You want to have the flexibility as much as possible. That's why I rather go with a monthly model throughout, which is going to give me a lot of flexibility. However, the single dynamic can also work for your project, but you want to make sure that you keep things dynamic and flexible. So these are the two keywords for building timelines, and I'm going to be sharing this file with you just for you to have an idea about how I calculate these flags and counters, and hope to see you in another video. Thank you and bye.